Hey, welcome to Howtobbqright. I'm Malcolm Reed. Today I'm at Memphis in May, the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest, Super Bowl of Swine. Got my buddy Mark Williams from Swine Life here with me, and we're competing in the rib category this year. It's Friday, but we wanted to do a rib video today, Memphis in May style, show you what we're turning in tomorrow. It's kind of a practice run for us. We're gonna get our recipe down, and we're gonna let y'all see how we do it so you can do it at home. Let's get to cooking. Now here at Memphis in May, we're cooking 24 racks of ribs for judging. There's 3 rounds of judging, with the blind judging, the first round of preliminary on-site, and then if you make finals, you've got to do it all over again. And we need plenty of slabs to cook from. We'll actually start cooking ribs at 2 different times. We'll stage them so we have them getting ready at different times throughout the day. That way we ensure that we have the best to choose from when it comes to giving a judge a rack of ribs. So here at Memphis in May, we cook baby back ribs. The baby back rib is up higher on the rib cage. It sits right on the loin. They're also called loin backs, and you can see they have a pretty good curve to them. You can't just start with baby back ribs right out of the package. We've got to do some trimming on them. The first thing we do is always remove the membrane. If you use a paper towel, you can slide your fingers right underneath the bone, grip it with that paper towel and rip it right off, just like Mark's doing. And then when I get them, I want to cut these ribs down. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of count off the bones, the best looking ones. And about right here, I'm going to come straight across. And now we've got a good looking rack of baby back ribs. You don't have to do a whole lot to the loin side unless there's a lot of meat on the top. We want it kind of even all the way across so it cooks at the same rate. And that's the perfect slab of baby back ribs. This is the one that I want to go in my box. I love them when the bones are straight. That's okay if they have a little curve to them, but you can see as these ribs cook, I can easily cut between each bone. And if you're looking for ribs and you're picking them out for a contest, you always want to pick the straightest bones you can possibly do. That's one reason why we do so many racks. So once we have all these ribs trimmed, we've got them cut down to the shape we want, the membrane's off the back, it's time to get our first seasoning on them. And here in Memphis, I always put a little bit of mustard on as a binder, but it also gives me that color that I can know I'm getting rub on all the surface area. If I could still see mustard, I missed a spot. It's gonna help get an even layer across these ribs. The first thing we're gonna do to them is get some savoriness on them. And this is where the Swine Life rub comes in. Mark, this is one y'all made.
It is.
It's got some really great tones in it. It has a little bit of sugar, but it's not really a sweet rub. And so we're gonna put these on the back first and let it sweat in.
And you can go pretty heavy with it. I mean, it's not gonna overpower it at all, so.
A medium coat is about perfect. We're gonna layer some different rubs on it. This backside is what those judges are gonna taste first, and that's where we're gonna pop them with the flavor. So we have the first layer of flavor on the Swine Life rub. We're gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes. You'll see the moisture start coming out in them. The rub will kind of disintegrate into it. So once that Swine Life melts in, you can see it kind of tacks up. I wanna hit them with the little spicy layer, and this is where my hot rub comes in. Has a great color, but it's also gonna give us a punch of heat, because the judges, I want them to get a little sweet, a little spicy, and a lot of flavor. So we're using the combo. And you can see we've kind of got the mustard completely covered up. So you know that you've got good coverage of your seasonings when you can't see the yellow. So after that hot rub blends in, we're just gonna flip these ribs over. Then we're gonna work on the top side. Now this is the money side. This is where we gotta make them look really good. So we're gonna start with some mustard. All right, Mark, hit them with the grind. And we're gonna go about the same, a good medium coat on them. One that savoriness first. On this appearance side, I'm just giving it a light tap, just to help that rub melt in just a little bit. So now we're adding our final layer, and this is the sweet element, the barbecue rub. It's got 3 different kinds of sugars in it, and it's also got that pretty red color that's gonna make these ribs pop. So now we're just gonna let these ribs hang out here at room temperature, let those rubs start working. That's starting that cooking process, and we're gonna get old Jolene fired up, Mark. What'd you do this morning to get her ready?
Just a small batch of charcoal, just enough to get a good bed of coals. That way it gets that post oak rolling, and we can start adding the cherry and the hickory as we cook throughout the day, you know.
So we're gonna use the hickory, cherry wood, the fruit, and a hardwood for flavor. The post oak is driving that BTU. It's driving the heat. We'll put a log of it on about every 45 minutes, and then we'll scatter a few chunks out over the hot coals to give us a little boost of smoke to really get some good barbecue flavor into these loin back ribs. All right, so we got Jolene up to temperature. She's running right where we want her. Mark, we're gonna start loading these ribs on the pit. Now, when you put a slab of ribs on, you want to make sure you lay it like you want it to cook. It needs to be straight, and I bunch it up just a little bit to where it's going to cook exactly like it's laying. Now, Mark, let's close them up. Let old Jolene do her magic.
So it's been an hour. We're finna add a stick of post oak, put a little bit more heat in the fire. She's been running 275, no problem at all. So we just added a stick. We're gonna check them, make sure they look good, not getting too dark. Got great color. Even with this Jambo being this full, it's still cooking even from front to back. I mean, you can even open up this side and they got pretty well the same color. We may sprint from here in about 30 or 45 minutes, but I think we're looking pretty good. All right, it's been about an hour and a half, so they got really, really good color. We're finna spray them a little bit, kind of keep them wet. That way they kind of soak up more of that smoke and keep them good and moist. And now would be a good time if you needed to, if you see any light spots, then maybe that fat's rendered more in other places, you can touch it up a little rub. Like I say, right now it's all about appearance. Still running 275, we're good.
So we've been on 2 hours. We sprayed those ribs at the 1 hour mark. You can see the color on them is beautiful and they're starting to dry out. I don't want them to get any darker, but I wanted that rub to stick to them. So if you can take your finger, touch on that rub, it's not coming off, the rub's adhered to the meat. That's a great telltale sign that it's time to wrap them. When you get them starting to turn dark like this, that's where you want to stop them, and now we want to get them tender. So we're going to take some of these off and we're going to get them all wrapped up, show you how we do it.
Man, those look good.
They look real good. I mean, check it, that's beautiful. So we've got the color on our ribs. Now we're gonna wrap them up to get them tender. And this is what's critical when you're doing a Memphis In May style rib. We've got to get them tender now that we've got the flavor on them. And I'm just starting with some parquet margarine, some brown sugar. This is our foundation. We've got that richness, that sweetness. Then I'm gonna pop it with some heat. I've got some cherry apple habanero glaze. This is a Cosmos product. And then I've got to pop them with a little bit of vinegar acidity. And that's where I'm using my vinegar sauce. It's got some spice in it as well. And we're just doing a drizzle of each of those. And we're gonna take the rib and go bone down right in it. Now for these comp ribs, I wanna make sure all these little pieces where the liquid's cooked out of the ribs, you wanna pick all that off. You wanna clean these ribs up, because these are for judging and we want them to look as best as they possibly can. On the back side of the ribs, I'm happy with the flavor we have on them and the color, and if I put too much, it'll want to disintegrate the rib from the back. So the only thing that I'm putting on the back side is a hit of the vinegar sauce, and I'm just going to drizzle it over the back, and it's going to keep it from getting too sticky on the back side. It's going to add a little bit of moisture, but it's going to keep them from cooking apart. They're going to look just as good on the back side as they do the front side. Now all we have to do is wrap them up. Just bring the foil over. We're not wrapping them up like super tight package. I'm just kind of folding the end and then bringing it back over. Twice fold and bring it back over. Now I can get back in the ribs easy to check that internal temperature when it comes time. So now we got the first round wrapped. We're going meat side down. The ribs will stay meat side down in the wrap till we get them tender. And it's gonna take probably about an hour and a half. We're gonna check them at the hour mark. We'll show you what they look like once we get them all wrapped up and get them tender. So our ribs have been rolling for about an hour, and this is the point you have to check them. We're trying to nail the doneness on them. I'm wanting it to be kind of flexible in the foil, and I'm looking for an internal temperature, 202, 204, right in that range, and I'm wanting to see some disintegration. Right away I can tell they're not ready yet. They're still a little tight. You can see we're getting a little bit of pullback, but the back's looking good. We're only getting about 185, so we still got a little ways to go. I'm thinking another half hour probably on these. We'll look at another one just in case. A little more disintegration on this rack. And this is why we check multiples. See, this rack's done. Bone's loose on it. It's got the disintegration. This is the point we're gonna hold them. So I'm gonna pull the ones off. Now that I've found one that's done, there may be some more, so I've got to check them all. As these ribs get done, I'm pulling them out and I'm putting them in these little small coolers. They're just little party stacker cheap coolers, but they're excellent for holding ribs. And I like to give them an hour rest before we glaze them. It gives the ribs time to calm down, those juices to kind of go back into them, and they turn out better if you hold them just for a little while. So we've been holding the ribs after we took them off the Jambo and we got them tender for about an hour. Now we're getting ready to glaze them. This is where we're gonna get them pretty. It's that final touch we're gonna do to them. So for the glaze, I'm starting with half a bottle of my vinegar sauce. Then we're gonna add a whole bottle of regular Killer Hogs sauce. And then to give it a little bit of a sweet kick, I'm using the Rib Candy by Texas Pepper Jelly. This is the apple cherry habanero. And this stuff is spicy. They make it extra hot, but trust me, this one's hot enough. We're gonna get this mixed up. So as soon as we get them out, we're gonna put them on foil boats. And we're just taking aluminum foil, doubling it up, and kind of folding it to where it's a boat shape. This is gonna make it easier to transfer to the grill. On the back side, I'm gonna hit them with a little bit of the dry rub to kind of get some of that color back from having them wrapped. And then we're gonna come over with our glaze that we've warmed up just a little bit, and we're gonna brush the back sides of them.
Man, that makes a big difference.
I mean, it puts all that color right back on them. Because you know, when you cook them in the foil, I mean, they've got a ton of heat on them. All that pressure's building up from being wrapped up tight. It gets them very tender, but it changes the color. So we're gonna get all that back. And now, Mark, if you'll flip them over, we're gonna do the same treatment to the top side. We'll just take the rub, give it a little light coat here, brings all that color back, and then we're gonna take our sauce, and we're gonna brush it right on. And it's gonna blend everything in once we put it on some heat.
You can't beat that color though. It does look really good. Sunlight brings it out big time.
I mean, that's beautiful. That's gonna be a contest ready rib right there. Bring on the next one. All right, now that we've got them glazed, we're gonna start working them back on in shifts. So Mark, get them back on some heat, man. We still got a little smoke rolling here on Jolene. Still running 275. That's why it's not gonna take long to set this sauce. You can tell, I hope you can hear the background noise. The party at Memphis In May is
Thursday, Friday now.
Friday night.
All right, so they've been on for probably about 20 minutes glazing. The color is phenomenal. You cannot beat that color right there. We're gonna get them back here, let Malcolm do a little cutting on them, gonna serve some folks up.
All right, so Mark brought me some of these ribs back here to cut. We let them glaze for about 30 minutes, and I'm gonna turn them over, show you how I'm gonna cut them. For Memphis In May, I would drop the edge bone, and we're doing double cut ribs. Double cut means it's a 2-bone section with meat, bone, meat, bone, meat. And that's the piece that I would serve to a judge. So the next one, we're gonna come in, we're gonna drop the bone, try to make the clean cut, come right up against the bone and get us another 2-bone piece. Then we're gonna drop another bone, and get us our last 2-bone piece right here. And that's how you want them. And you know that I got to try one of these ribs. I'll get another rack here. And you don't think they're tender, they got the wiggle, but they will break like this, just right down the middle. That is perfect rib. When you give them to a judge, you want them to be able to take these ribs, get those bones, and get that perfect tear. Then I want to take this one. We give them 2-bone pieces because I want to see them take the rib, pull that out, and then come in here and get that bite. Oh my goodness. If that's not a delicious rib, I don't know what is. Memphis In May style, saucy, got it all over me. Hey, we got to do this again tomorrow to win this thing. Having fun on the river. I mean, look at that. Bone is clean. There you go, Mark. Try that.
That's very good.
It's got the flavor, it's got the heat, it's got the sauce, it's got the savoriness. It's a good rib. So I'm about 15 minutes away today here on Saturday of the contest. We cooked another set of ribs this morning. This is what they look like on the grill. We've got it decorated up. Judges are gonna come by and we're gonna feed them each a slab of these ribs. Appreciate y'all checking out the video this week. You gotta try this Memphis In May baby back rib recipe. If you like what we're doing, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can even check out our podcast every week where we wrap all this fun stuff that we do. We'll see y'all next time. The perfect Memphis In May rib to me, it's gotta have some pork flavor. It's gotta taste like pork. It's gotta have a little bit of that smoke. You need that hickory wood. Memphis is a hickory town. You need the dry rub flavors, you know, the traditional barbecue notes, but then you need a little sweet, and you don't want any of them to overpower the others. They gotta all come together to give you that overall perfect rib, and that's what we strive to do here at Killer Hogs, is just make a really good rib that's gonna be, you know, one of the best you've ever ate.
You want to do one together?
Do one together. You want to rub one together?
Rub one together.